Okay, chapter 6, we're focusing on shell script programming. So here, a few things we'll talk about quickly. Shell variables are they temporarily store values in memory for use by a shell script. So if you're running a program, you can go ahead and set up these variables. They'll run within the script itself, within the environment within the script, but once the script ends, the variable will be removed or will be unset. So this particular part talks a little bit about the program development cycle. We're talking about this in other classes as well. In this case, with the text as it structures this, step 1, create program specs, what it's supposed to do. Step 2, begin a design process. You're building an algorithm within this design process. Step 3, write the code. Step 4, test and debug. So again, we're talking about this in a number of other classes. And we do it better justice in other classes. This is just a quick through and thinking about when we're building Linux scripts, what's the process? Okay, we have our source file, and we'll use VI or gedit to create that source file. Now, many of the scripts will run interpreted, and with the regular Linux commands, the regular menus that we're building, we'll run those as interpreted, meaning that the machine, once we run those, the machine will convert the script itself to machine code and run it in a semi-compiled format. Now, when we go and create some C programs and other programs, we'll go ahead and compile it. And this Linux compiler is called GCC. This is just an additional piece of prototype as a running model of your application. Okay, now a shell. Now, when you're using the terminal, you're in a shell, and that shell is that bash shell. So that's the name of the shell. It offers strong scripting and programming language features, and so on and so on. But a shell is any program that users employ to type commands. The enter command input is text, then interpreted and executed by a command line interpreter. And the commands can be entered into a text script file as well. So that's the focus. Any command that you enter within the bash shell itself can be entered into a script file and can be scripted for later. And again, this just points out there are 3 shells that come with most Linux distributions. Okay, so talking about variables. A couple different kinds of variables. Environment variable, shell and environment variables. Okay, an environment variable is a named object that contains information used by one or more applications. So my local directory is my home directory can be used by other applications. My shell, being bin bash, can be used by other applications, and so on. Now, the OS type can be used by other applications as well. So if we click over to here, I've been doing a lot of stuff, but we have to echo and then use the $ in front of your environment variable. And then they are uppercase. OS type, I think, was correct. And so Linux GNU is the OS type. That can be used by an application, another application within the script file format. Oh, and also we want to look at that, but print environment variables. So if we just simply print environment variables, we see the entire list of variables. What the command shows is we can go ahead and pipe more into this, and then we can see the variables in a screen-by-screen format. We see our session is Ubuntu. So the shell is bin bash. The user is Sean. Current users is Sean. Hit the space bar. List. I have a number of different variables that I've created. we have, what else do we have here maybe? I don't know if we see anything in that particular list. The log name is Sean. And then finally we have a number of other variables, environment variables that we use. I don't really see anything that I use typically within that. So, but again, print and shows all of our environment variables. Okay, all right. So we're going to create some of these environment variables. We're going to create an environment variable called list, and then current users. So to create these, and now notice the other deal here, these backward apostrophes. So list equals the backward apostrophe, which is underneath the tilde, just below the escape button on the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. And I think we wanted a cat zoo2, and this would just be a command that we want to use later. We would want to make a shortcut, basically, use it in another script. So it just goes ahead and saves that command. Now let's go ahead and echo $list in uppercase, and it executes the command. Now it doesn't add the line feeds as you would ordinarily see it, but it does run the command. Also, let's take a look at who current users. So we'll go, let's run the command, who, what's the rest of it? Pipes cut. Well, that's what we see with who. Who. Cut. We want to just pull this part, this first part, the users themselves. That means the space can be a delimiter. So we're going to pull field 1 dash D as a delimiter, and then we're going to add in the space as a delimiter itself. So we're just cutting that particular first field. Okay, so we ran the command. That works well. So let's go ahead and current users equal backwards apostrophe, or backwards apostrophe. Okay. Echo $uppercase. And so we see that. So it actually put this command into an environment variable called current users. And then whenever I echo the current users, it runs a command and shows the output. Okay, we can export that. So we have shell variables, which are short-term variables. We can export those to a longer-term variable. So an export command changes the shell variable to an environment variable, makes it short-term to long-term. Now, which means that you can go ahead and run it outside of a script file, and it will stay within your bash environment. So we have list cat zoo2. So we're gonna simply export list uppercase print and list. We're gonna print the environment variable list, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so we can do that. The next is to unset it. So you create these environment variables, you can unset it, so you can remove them. So basically, we're going to show. I think we can do this. Okay, we know what list looks like. Unset. As we look at the command, unset the list itself. In this case, we'll use list. Okay, echo. Nothing. I know the environment variable was deleted, so it was unset. Now I know the example shows PWD. PWD is your prompt. I've just used list in this example, so that's what we'll keep. Now again, shell variables. You can have a configuration shell variable. So you run these shell variables within a script, within a program. The variables will run and be used within the script itself, but may not but it won't be active outside of that script. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and create shell variables, and the file we'll use is called operator, but we'll create shell variables. Let C equals A plus B within the script itself. We'll take a look at that operator file. This is the script. It's going to echo $C and then write that information. Let C 10 plus 5 equals C. It's going to echo that $C to the screen, but it's going to redirect that into operator test. Okay, so go over here, clear. Okay, operator, there's our script. This is the shell variable that's being created. It's going to write that. We're going to change mode. When we create this, it'll be set so that you cannot run it. You need to change mode on the file, the permission set on the file. Okay, we'll go ahead and run it. Okay, now let's cat. We're supposed to be creating a file called operator test that has that echo $C, that environment variable, written into it. And it's 15. There it is. Okay, so, but now let's do this. So that environment variable was created inside this shell script. If that were an environment variable, or let me step back. Since that's a shell variable, it ran within and was created within the script itself. We should not be able to see it outside the script. Echo $C, not there. If we created it as created an environment variable within the shell script, it would be available. We would be able to see it. Okay, so we have some standard bash shell environment configuration variables that you can work with and change and edit. Some additional ones, and this is within the PowerPoint for, of course, Chapter 3. Now, what we're going to take a look at here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make this part 1, and I'm going to leave off here with this part 1 video, and then part 2 will come back and especially look at the trap command.